uh, official spring meeting here in the merry month of May, and welcome everybody back from the winter, etc. Just a little announcement too. As we move into the summer months, our television services through the town that are in relationship with Comcast are up for renewal, and I'd like to, not tonight, but I'd like to send a letter in support of their efforts. They've had one public hearing. They're going to have another one in September.
Whose efforts?
Jamie Goodwin, our Channel 18 group here within the town. You know, because the service they provide, I think, is terrific in terms of informing the public. You know, they can't get to meetings, etc.
Well, we have 1,000 members, right?
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's
very easy.
yeah.
What does Comcast have to do with that?
That they
I don't want to write the letter on behalf of
Boy,
Comcast.
you're not kidding.
oh, tell me about it. That's the tough part. But they're the game in town that we have to deal with, and apparently they have the prerogative to say we're not going to have local television in your town. So we'll politic for that. In absence of the minutes, we'll go right to the director's report.
Okay.
I think he had a plan to expedite things.
Do we not have minutes this week? This
No.
month? Okay.
I sneak right here. I can't see the screen, sorry.
Catch up close.
One more time.
Okay, I'm going to start off with the superintendent's report.
What's wrong with your eyes?
His head's in the way.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, I'm going to start off with the superintendent's report that was given to me by Sean. Course conditions. So far this season has been a little wet and cool, obviously, but it looks like the weather's starting to change over the last week, and so the grass has really started to take off. I feel we're in really good shape with no major issue. The following is a list of projects that have been done or will be doing over the next couple weeks. Freddie cut the greens to smooth out and top dress, bunker maintenance, weeding and edging, and transplant shrubs behind 9 green and to the right side of six cart path near the tee. If you've been on the golf course, you've seen that work. The shrubs from in front of the old cart barn have been moved to shield the driving range from the 9th green, and also to shield the neighbor's house on hole 6. I'll show a picture of that in a little bit. Okay, I gave a snapshot of membership sales to this point. We're a little bit down. This was through 5/21, so this is a week old. And we're down 35 memberships over last year, which I think is pretty standard with the poor weather we've had so far.
Yeah.
A lot of members have not come back. People are coming back later and later. We've had growth in membership the last 4 years, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that we have a little correction where we take a step back 5% or so this year. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. It is funny looking at the categories that Harwich is down most significantly with 67 less than last year. But Chatham continues to be a really good spot of opportunity with some good growth there still, with 20 more memberships than we had at this point last year, including the new Chatham memberships, 14 more new than last year at this point.
So the Chatham is renewals and the new Chatham is brand new.
Yeah, that's right. This is from a spreadsheet that our finance director set up. She separates, which I think is really smart, which ones are new and which ones are renewals.
Thank you.
Excellent. Just a quick question, Roman.
Yes.
Will there be an attempt to look at the 67 people that didn't rejoin?
I think I'd let the dust settle still, because
Oh, okay.
we're going to see a lot more memberships come in over the next
Yeah.
month or month and a half. But yes, well,
Yeah.
if it turns out that we're missing
I just
50
wondered.
or if we lost some, I did that a few years ago when I think my first year when we lost a number of members, we reached out to them and got good feedback.
Okay.
Roman, can I assume from this that we have no Brewster members?
Brewster would be under the non-resident category since we don't offer a special deal to Brewster. You're welcome. What we consider residents are Harwich, Chatham, Eastham, and Orleans because they all get special rates. Everybody else is considered a non-resident because they pay the one non-resident rate. So I gave a snapshot of the marketing initiatives we're doing to grow the membership. This is from proof that a company sent me, so it actually says Orleans twice. That was fixed for the email that went out. But this was part of an email that went out to 25,000 people that are identified as golfers and live in Harwich, Chatham, Eastham, and Orleans. So this was really to highlight our special rates for those areas. And we've done this each of the last few years, and I think this email initiative we do through Cape Cod Times Media Group is one of the reasons we've seen really strong membership each year.
Should we have got that?
You could, if you were on the distribution list with Cape Cod Media Group. Do you subscribe to Cape Cod Times?
Nope.
Okay, that's probably why they have so they collect their lists, and one of the main ways they collect their distribution list is through memberships to the Cape Cod Times.
Should we be added to that list because we're on the golf committee? Even if we
Um,
don't subscribe to Cape Cod Times?
It'd be a good idea. I don't have access to that list. That's all through Cape Cod Times Media Group.
And they have 25,000?
Yeah, they sent 25,000. So just another idea of one of the marketing initiatives we're doing this spring. This is a good idea by the Cape Cod Times Media Group to target some new areas for vacationers. They decided to partner up with a few Cape golf courses and target the areas of New York, New Jersey, Delaware that are not normally targeted for golf vacations to Cape Cod. And this is getting 750,000 impressions on their website. It's a contest where all we have to do is give away a foursome, and we collect an email distribution list from this that will be able to really specifically target people from New York, New
Smart.
Jersey,
Smart.
Delaware, and send them specific emails for vacationing on Cape Cod and playing golf at Cranberry Valley. So I was asked to give a little breakdown of our spring tournaments. So far, we've had this WGAM spring team, which Martha ran. The Harwich Fire Association event had 124. It's great participation. The Cranberry Valley member was at 68, which is exactly where it's been for 3 straight years. Harwich Police Association is this Thursday, approximately 90. And then on Monday is the Retired Men's Club of Cape Cod with the same approximately 90.
Great.
Well, we got the Salute Military Golf Association.
Yes, I pulled that one out to highlight that one specifically, okay?
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yes.
No, that's the,
Excuse me, fellas. With this Retired Men's Club of Cape Cod, what's the format of, how's that tournament organized?
This is not the Mid-Cape Men's Club, it's a different,
Oh,
it's
it's
a
a
different club.
different-
that's
This
the
is,
Dennis Yamato.
yeah,
Wow.
Will they do,
They're
will they
doing-
do food
they,
at the club?
they don't commit to food, but they reached out to Ron offered them a special, and so he's expecting about half of them to stay for lunch.
Okay, great.
And speaking of Ron, I didn't put this in my report, but I spoke with him today after the weekend. He said Saturday was his best day in the history of his time at Cranberry Valley, so things are looking good with the good weather.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was up there for breakfast this morning, and the women had just finished. They went off at 6.
Yeah,
And there was probably 40 women in there.
the women do a great job supporting. Yeah,
And then Dick Fake came out and gave them a list of new rules from
Right.
the USGA. It was really well done.
oh, well done.
They
They-
used to have their member today, wasn't it?
No,
It was a regular day.
Oh, was
it was just a regular day, but they had special plans with Dick to go over rules.
Oh, okay.
And how about your event, Martha? The spring team?
We had 5 matches. We played Woods Hole, Liano, Captains, Old Barnstable, and Cranberry.
Nice.
We came in 3rd place.
All right, it's a tough group to score any points
Oh, it
with.
is.
It's good to participate, good we're
Very
involved.
good.
So, as Tom mentioned, I highlighted the Salute Military Golf Association on May 6th. That's a picture of our participants on the green. You'll recognize the guy on the far left.
Yeah, that's great.
I have a few pictures from this event. The Salute Military Golf Association came with their own flags. I thought it looked beautiful. They decorated our inner circle.
See how those flags lend gravitas?
I like it. You're selling me on them. And then on this side here, there's 3 of our lady members with a member of the Salute Military Golf Association. I highlight that every year. That's been a real connection they made where that group, especially Ann McNeil, who's the second one in from the left. She travels with the group. It's a connection that was made through our first event, and she sponsors them to travel to Ireland, and she
Awesome.
travels all over the state with the group,
Her
so,
husband was a victim of 9/11.
yeah. It's Twin Towers.
She's really loyal to these guys.
Yeah,
Nice-
it's a connection we made with this
nice
event, so.
couple of years ago, yeah.
Tom, I just have a quick question. It looks like the sun was out. How did you do that?
We had the mailman, the weatherman, who just told him what was going to happen.
No, I don't know if you're looking at that right, that's all clouds.
You know, we're lucky.
It's pretty gray.
We just posted the figures against the background.
Oh, I see that. I see that.
And then here's the Monomoy High School Girls a cappella group singing the national
I
anthem.
gotta just tell you, you know, his 25, 30 vets, and a lot of our guys are vets, and these girls, there were tears in these guys' eyes.
It's very
The
emotional.
girls, they sang yesterday at the veterans thing out in, you know, down in central Harwich.
Yeah.
They sang there too. It's like angelic. It was
It's
just
become a highlight of the event.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
And I added the other picture in just because I thought it was funny. Ron Leidner played in the event and served the lunch. This is him teeing off a hole one. You should have seen how fast he got off the tee because he planned to race off the golf course to not miss anybody for serving lunch. It's pretty funny.
By the way, he's a 20-year veteran, you know, he
Yeah.
did 4 years in
Coast
the
Guard.
Air Force and 16 years in the Coast Guard.
Right,
Yeah.
submarines. So here's the facts. We had 41 members participate, 11 guests, and 25 SMGA veterans for a total of 77 participants.
That's awesome.
We wanted to point out special recognition to the Mid-Cape Men's Club for supporting the event. Cranberry Valley members Mark Leach and Sean Driscoll for donating steak tips and scallops. Third straight year they've donated a lunch.
Exactly.
Peterson Realty sponsored a vet. Chapin's Restaurant sponsored a foursome. Cape Cod 5 donated red shirts to all participants.
Yeah.
And Monomoy High School Girls a cappella group sang the national anthem. And Tom Johnson and Pete Wall ran the check-in table and handed out the shirts.
It was a good day.
It was a good day.
What a wonderful day.
Yeah, it's been a great connection we made with them.
Oh, yeah.
Tom, if you provided us a list, would you entertain the idea of the committee sending a letter of thanks or acknowledgement to these people?
Oh, absolutely, especially to the high school, the kids. I spoke to the kids, I got very emotional when I said, you know, these are guys that are out there and they may never have come back, but they did. And they're great people, these are veterans, so
Yeah.
we're honoring them in this day, that's all. And then afterwards, I asked Roman, you had your guys deliver Cape Cod 5
Shirts
to
to all the
each one of
girls,
them.
yeah.
Each one of the girls, with
Yeah.
the young women who had sung,
Mhm.
you know. Oh, I think it would be wonderful to send a note of appreciation for their help, you know.
I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Okay?
Second.
Second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. How about you and I collaborate?
Sure, I'll give you a draft.
Okay? Thank
Well,
you.
one question for you. The two guys that we played with, when you said they were playing the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning, were they playing Cranberry again or somewhere else?
I don't know about that. I know a lot of the guys, I can't remember if I told you, we partnered up with a hotel in town, the Commodore, that they've offered special rates to anybody playing in our events. And so I let the SMGA know they'd get special rates to the Commodore. A lot of them spent the night. So some came up Sunday and played 9 holes at Twilight before the event. Some probably stayed and played the next day. I don't know if they played Cranberry though.
And Tom, would you say your perspective on this, that, you know, because we've got a foundation now for this event, that
It's
is,
institutionalized now.
yeah,
It's annual, and the credit goes to himself and his staff. They, you know, they do this, they do a great job. Great job.
You're very involved too, Tom. It's good. Okay,
thank you, Ron.
you're welcome. I just wanted to mention hole 6. I told you, Clem, I'd bring this up.
Thank you,
Um,
Roman.
Hole 6 has been an issue with one particular neighbor we have for a couple of years now. He's unhappy with golf balls going in his yard and golfers coming near his property or on his property. I've been handling this through the town administrator, who's gotten the town's legal department involved. We've consulted with the town's insurance company. He's getting the ear, he's relentless with emails. He emailed me until the town administrator said, don't respond to him anymore, I'll take it from here. And the town administrator has got so loaded with emails from him that now he's on to the selectmen. So the reason I wanted to mention this could be an agenda item for the selectmen at some point where they want to discuss what the town administrator's been doing with this issue. The town lawyer and the town's insurance company, Maya, both said we've made adequate moves to mitigate the problem.
Yeah.
And what I'll point out too, let me see if my mouse shows here.
What we don't do, we're gonna get it.
So right here, these are hedges we just put in. Those are the big hedges that were in front of the old carp
The old
barn.
carp barn.
And then right behind it, there's another layer of, let me get my mouse back.
Probably has some trees in there too.
So those are the Leland cypresses, and then behind them we've got some arborvitaes as well that are growing 1 to 3 feet per year. If you see, the reason I really wanted to point this out, we've really stopped the from going in his yard. He's now sending pictures to the selectmen of people near his yard, and is complaining that people are waving to him from the golf course. I told him that's the golf culture. We wave. It's not bad. Don't get offended by it. We wave on golf courses.
And people are on our property.
Yeah, they're on our property. He sent me an email yesterday of somebody on his property retrieving a golf ball. And what the town lawyer said was, tell him if somebody's on his property, call the police. That's a trespassing issue that has nothing to do with us. And so, but an article ended up in the newspaper of the Chronicle last year that said, do golf balls trespass? That was all from this issue. The one thing I'd point out is you can't even see his yard. His yard is elevated. It's up here. And it's behind the canopy of the trees. It's really hard to get to. So we over on the trees in front of the property. Sorry, my mouse keeps
It
going.
takes quite an errant shot to get up to
It
the
does.
Oh, look.
It'd have to be just the right hook.
Huh?
I've never hit a ball with that.
He,
Never.
so there's
That's-
3 no trespassing signs up as well.
It's just not the way
So
it's set up, you
we
know?
feel like we've taken all appropriate actions. Just what I wanted to point out to you is, if this is an agenda item and the golf committee or Clem, anybody wants to show up to represent the golf course, I'm sure I'll be there, and I'm sure I'll take direction from the town administrator on how we want to handle things. At this point, the town administrator felt like the appropriate actions have been taken, and we've consulted with all the appropriate people that what our actions have been correct.
I feel sorry for the woman next door, Roma.
Well,
That's Bob
And you
Black's
know,
lives next
they
door.
put.
On the other side,
trees in
though,
front of her
she's
yard.
very unhappy. She's
And
very
Now
unhappy.
she can't even see the golf course.
She's a great golf course neighbor, and she's very unhappy about what we've had to do.
Terrible.
Roman, is the motivation for this, it just seems to me the motivation is because of the problems you have with the town, because of all the things you did illegally.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't know that for
At some point, will the
sure.
legal beagles get together and just say, cut the crap?
So if
I mean,
I
that
think
point
it's-
happened, and when we made our accommodations with the trees and with the signs, he said give it to Memorial Day. He's going to give it to Memorial Day to see how much they've mitigated the problem. So
It's not gonna
yes.
You want it
Yeah.
done.
So what,
He wants a net, which, once again, if you look at the picture, where's the net go? I mean, I've said this all along, all the different trajectories of balls that could go there. I don't know where you'd put a net in front of the lady's house, Shortman, which would be very unfair to her.
that,
A net's not an idea.
the net is not appropriate.
Sean Fernandez, and I kind of agree with this, said if it goes really far to where they say you have to do something, his suggestion was a stockade fence along the gentleman's property on our side, and that would stop people from going in his yard, so.
Just a comment about fencing.
Something else.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
It's okay. Steve, nice to have you aboard. Come on.
That's all right, I'm fine.
The majority of golf operations that I have seen, stockade fencing becomes problematic. It wears out very quickly. The majority of boundary fences that I've seen around both private and public courses are the chain link variety. There are fencing materials that are coated with vinyl, I think. They blend into the landscape and they work. And they tend to be long-lasting.
As a golf pro, I really don't like the idea of fences on the golf course because of the rulings we have, and
Oh, I know.
they're not good for golfers. So we feel like we've taken appropriate actions at this point. I'll take my direction from the town administrator, but this has been a point of contention with him and some of the selectmen.
And the lawyers. I mean,
Yeah.
The lawyers handle this. I
Yeah.
would argue that if it comes to the selectmen, an attorney should be there to explain
I agree.
that reasonable precautions have been taken. The other thing is, what's the industry standard around the country? This may be happening elsewhere, and there may be some strong case law about this.
There is, the town's insurance agency looked up a lot of those things. They had a specific case within baseball, with a baseball field that they said applied to this.
Yeah,
But
they'd be well-
they said they're ready to defend a claim against us,
Oh, good.
and the lawyer said he thought we were in a good position.
Well, it's too bad that he's bothering you so much with those things. That's harassment.
Well-
Well, and the town as well.
Yeah.
The town has a lot of
He
major
gets the
league.
emails and the complaints, and, he's got other things to do.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just harassment.
It's okay. But I'd love to put the issue to bed, or at least, have some recognition that we've taken the appropriate
Yeah,
actions.
exactly.
And I think it's important for the record to focus on the fact that we're coming up onto almost 50 years of operation of this golf course. There have never been, to my knowledge, any incident like this that's come forward from a neighbor or an abutter. End of story.
Well, to not rehash everything that happened here, because I think we've talked about it. When he did the major renovation to his yard, he removed a lot of trees and opened up his yard to golf balls. So he went through a period where he's had a lot of golf balls in his yard because of him raising the elevation of his yard and taking down trees. Where there was a lot of natural foliage, he removed that himself and kind of created an opening.
Right.
So we're hoping that our plantings, which will grow, well, like I said, 1 to 3 feet a year, will help block that. But as I said, this is a view from the tee. You really can't see his yard. His yard's tucked in there pretty well. And the pictures I'm getting from him are of golfers coming near his yard for the most part. So I'm not even seeing a whole lot of action in his yard.
But you know, your point, I was a labor arbitrator, relations labor arbitrator, and one of the great things in an arbitration is stories. Now, your point, that the last 10 years, we do 50,000 rounds a year.
Right.
So the last 10 years, 500,000. So the last 2 decades, it's $1 million. We've done 1 million rounds of golf and never got a complaint.
Never.
See, that's the kind of thing that someone says, wait a minute, what's going on here?
And then the lawyers really were focused on some kind of basic statements to say, legally there's a reasonable expectation when you live next to a golf course, you're going to see golf balls and you're going to see golfers in your backyard.
God's will.
And John, to your point,
Yeah.
was there or was there not an issue? I believe that there was, that the necessary permits were not undertaken by this gentleman when he engaged in this construction
So now
on his
take it to the
property.
town.
That's
Get
what
back at the
happened.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to let you know that there's a lot of chatter about this still 2 years later. So if you see it as
We
a,
should have a walk-a-thon, get a lot of people and just keep walking up and down. As long as they're walking on our property.
They might not be waving at it.
all right. So if you see an agenda item with the selectmen, that's what this is about.
I'll be there, Roman, for you.
All right, and that's what I had for you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on to old business. Unfortunately, it's still old business. Our capital project update, Roman, if you could. And I suggested, too, that if it's possible, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but any rough timetable for what
Sure.
might be appropriate. Thank you.
All right, I'll update the list I gave last month. We're going through what's completed is the building, removal of fuel tank, demo of old cart barn, the electric service and meter removed, paving of parking lot and cart path. Now I highlighted, you may not be able to see here, the new items on the completed list are the striping of the parking lot
Yeah.
and the cart barn electric with lights, garage doors, outlets, and floodlights have all been installed. I have photos to show that. Progress has been made on a few things in the works. The solar project with CVEC, that's still in negotiations where CVEC is negotiating the contract with Green Skies, which was selected to be our vendor. And I've given the contact information to CVEC to share with Green Skies our connection with Eversource so that they're getting started on that. They, in their bid, included $100,000 for interconnection costs. And that when they figured that, they figured an overland run of the electric from Oak Street up to the cart barn. And Chris Clark, the town administrator, checked with the planning department, and all new electric installation has to be below ground. So we have to go to them, and that it's approximately 3 times the cost to do the installation below ground. That's where we would want it. We wouldn't want to run poles up the
Exactly.
driveway. So we're negotiating with them on just how that affects their bid. The fact that it needs to be a below ground installation.
So what would be a cost be if you go below ground?
That's what they're checking. They're now going to talk to. They've got the plan from Eversource. They're going to talk to Eversource about what exactly needs to be done. They're going to come up with that price, sit down with the town administrator, and it'll probably be a negotiation based on what we have to negotiate is whether it's dollars that we had allocated to the interconnection cost in the budget, or future power percentages.
You know, the other discussion that you had at one time, I think there was a number that was being thrown around about 200 or 250,000.
We've
Yes.
had rough estimates, yeah.
Now, that was with the poles,
No, that was underground,
that was underground.
yeah. Because when we were going to take it up at first, John, we knew it had to be underground. When CVEC came in and this company, Green Skies got involved, they just thought of doing it as cheap as possible and going overground when they first put the bid package together. Now that we're getting into negotiating, they realize it has to be an underground installation,
So
so,
if it's 250 and they're willing right now to pay 100,000 of that,
right.
so we absorb the other 150?
In my talks with the town administrator, there are a few things we can do. We can trade future power with them over the 25-year term, and it's really small amounts that are very meaningful to them we could do. In the budget we had for the interconnection cost, in the project, we had $50,000 set aside for electric interconnection. So we might have that to negotiate with as well.
Could I,
Excuse me. I just want to be clear what you said. So the production of electricity after this is done,
Yes,
the excess power that has been generated can be then returned for a fee, and it reduces the cost of.
yes, and then I've gotten a very general appraisal of what the effect will be for the golf course. In general, what we're looking at through this deal with CVEC is little or no electric bill for 25 years. And it's going to be a net meter situation where this company, Green Skies, gets involved, and they'll sell the overage that we're not using. That's their profit.
But they pay for the.
The installation.
Oh, my God.
that's why this project is so important.
When do we anticipate a solution to this issue?
I'm hoping soon. The town administrator's meeting with a different vendor through CVEC for a different solar project tomorrow. So a lot of this negotiation is happening right now. And so I'm hoping in Green Skies, the town administrator is going to meet with representatives of CVEC tomorrow. And Liz Argo, who runs CVEC, has told me she's going to bring up our issues with the town administrator specifically tomorrow. So it's going on right now.
What's our best estimate in terms of when would we like electric carts operational in the car park?
Next year. So I mean, we're hoping to push things so that this all
Next
gets
year being April?
opened up in April with an electric car fleet.
John Wheeler, what would be, since you're the cart man officially, what would be the timetable that you think we should act on a contract regarding, let's say, electric cars?
Briefly with Roman about that, okay, just to say that we want to do this in parallel, okay, we
Yeah.
don't want to wait till the last second.
Right.
I know John's on board with that too, we agree, okay, to keep that thing so that when, in fact, this is cleared out, okay, we're ready to roll.
Excellent.
So that's,
Yeah.
we're on board with that, so.
And I do have on the, later on this list here, the town administrator, all of our major projects are being bid out through the new town engineer, Griffin Ryder.
Yeah.
And so he's got a lot on his plate, he just started. But he's already met with me a few times about putting out the electric bid for the charger grid. And the town administrator told me, get right on that, let's get that built this summer. So
Perfect.
we're trying to get the electric car bid grid built this summer.
Just a couple of quick questions. Could you give us, if you have the information at hand, Roman, Green Skies, they were selected by,
By CVEC, they were recommended by CVEC as the most favorable
Okay.
bidder.
and just a note as far as the public record's concerned, just one man's observation, but I'll tell you, when we engaged in this project and we enlisted the help of the highway department and so on, the landscaping that they did behind the cart barn, I thought was just extraordinary. They did an awful lot of earth moving there and contouring and landscaping. I didn't look at it specifically this morning, but I just took a quick drive through. But I don't know if you guys noticed, because you've been around, they did quite a job. So that we've reclaimed, the area behind Sean's building.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought it looked terrific.
The concern I have from, Columbus, there's no grass down.
Yeah.
It's gonna erode.
I think, did Sean talk about hydroseeding that?
That's, sorry, I'm trying to get that's on my list. We're rehydroseeding this. It's been hydroseeded once, it'll be rehydroseeded. Bear with me, I lost my presentation.
And I think Jack too, there's some plans to put in plantings as well.
That was all part of the
The
landscape plan we did with Michael Curadosi.
Was that just done recently?
We still have that done.
No, that was done last
We still
year.
have that on
No, I
file
mean,
too,
in
Jack.
terms of the re-landscaping of that pit in there. Because I went by there the other day, and it looked kind of terrible.
Yeah, the pit is, what we're gonna work on is the slope. We're gonna hydroseed the slope to stabilize it. And there's a lot of plantings that are gonna go in there according to the,
When you say
landscape
slope,
plan.
you're talking about the path, the return path?
Yeah.
Talk about the slope, all the way from the maintenance building, all the way up to where the car barn is. That slope's right there,
It's
and
flat.
also behind the car
How
barn.
about toward the 14th hole? What's happening with that area? It's all bare ground now.
At this point, that's just gonna be bare ground. That's actually part of the solar bid, where that's gonna be a solar
A
field.
freestanding solar field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't there an issue with the Conservation Commission in the sense that they took too much there?
That area that you're talking about is only a 600 square foot area, way further up. The corner up by it'd be the east corner of the car barn, closer to the clubhouse. There was one area there where it's the area where the parking lot used to wash out, so that it's an area that we've had a difficult time kind of maintaining the slope. That was the area. There was a little 600 foot triangle there where we dug a little too deep into the conservation area.
What space are you talking about? The 14th tee, is that?
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
it's all open up, as you look from the parking lot toward the 14th hole, it's like there's just a thin strip of trees that's left, okay? And the impression I got was that they cut way, way back toward the 14th hole, beyond, my understanding was beyond where they should have cut. But now you've corrected me in that thinking.
Yeah, it was, if you're coming, I know you haven't done this yet probably, John, but if you're coming down the cart path from hole 18, it's an area that when you pass the kettle pond on your right, which is our conservation area, it's just to your left before you reach the car barn. That's the one little area that we dug in a little too deep.
Okay.
Sorry while I pulled the short.
Yeah, I just think it's important for us to keep the pressure on to get the cot barn operational and capable, because we worked so hard as a committee to get the cot barn
Oh, I know,
built.
I know.
And the whole objective behind it was to go solar and get electric cots on the golf course. And
And the fringe benefit of getting,
I'd hate to have it seen it delay another year.
oh,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
April should be our drop dead date.
So we're on a new cart lease that runs till next March. So yeah, we'll over the winter we'll either be hopefully engaging in a new car lease for electric carts.
Now, are we still open for the lease with the different manufacturers?
Yes, yeah, wide open.
And we're still thinking of lithium.
That was what our
Absolutely.
position was there. Yeah.
And we know with the free cart, we've already been down that road, so
Yeah.
we're not starting from scratch here.
And I've got one little bit of information on that too that's kind of exciting, which is the first lithium fleet from EasyGo is on Cape now at Comaquid. So we'll have a local fleet that we can see what kind of experience they're having, which is very helpful.
If we'd been in control, people, we would have had the first fleet.
Maybe better that we don't though. I mean, we'll
Yep.
learn from them.
I have a question about where the cot barn used to be, and that's unfinished. What's gonna
Yes.
happen to that?
If you don't mind, Tom, let me finish going down my list. 'Cause I've got all these things addressed here. Okay, so where was I? So CVEC. So now we're in the landscaping of the new car barn. According to the Michael Curadosi plan, he was the landscape architect we engaged last year to go to the planning board and get our landscape plan approved. He did a really good job. The town administrator had him go back and revamp his plan based on the realities of what plants were available. And the town administrator really wants to make sure that we're sticking with the plan that was approved by planning board. So he's going to take that back to the planning board and say, this is what has been re-approved, or get it reapproved. Because basically, one of the trees that he recommended cost $5,000, and we had to ship it in from Ohio. Where Sean said, I can get a comparable one for $200 at Agway. So we called him in, and he's revamping that based on some realities, which is smart. And then we're going to install new plants along the backside of the cart barn and reseed the washed out areas. That's what we were talking about. We had the town's conservation agent come down, and her concern is that washout area where the parking lot used to wash out, which is in the new car barn, the east side of it. The old parking lot used to wash out right down that path, straight into that kettle pond. And it's funny, we consider that the conservation area.
Right.
I'm telling you, Sean and I are on the same page with this. That whole conservation area, the kettle pond, is really the result of the parking lot dumping into that for 40 years. We created that. Our parking lot created this kettle pond that's now a conservation area. We have to mitigate that problem there, but we're going to do that with reseeding and hydro seeding that area. And then also she approved native stone for that path that goes by that area in the conservation zone. So Sean's working right now on installing 1/2-inch native stone all the way on the new path from hole 18 to the new car barn. Then we'll open that path for business. We're working on sealing the concrete floor in the new car barn. The plan is to do that either this Thursday or Monday during the shotgun we have out.
Excellent.
When's
Is that,
When's the stone gonna be installed?
We're hoping in the next 2 weeks.
So signage is gonna be up at the same time?
We're working on signage right now. You guys are ahead of me. I got that on the next slide. That's okay. It's okay. It's coming. Yeah, that's all going to come together at the same time.
who did they contract for the sealing of the concrete floor in the barn?
That's strictly laborers. We're going to buy the product ourselves, and we're going to have Demi.
Because that's very important.
We're going to buy the
That
product in-house to save money, and we're going to hire some laborers.
Excellent.
New signs are in. They've been ordered and received, and they'll be installed this week. They'll help with the new car barn area. We're going out to bid on a new pad for the gasoline tank to be installed. That's down in maintenance. So we picked the gasoline tank, put it down there. We have it in a temporary position. It needs to be installed on a new pad. That's going out to bid.
Yeah.
Solar parking lights are to be purchased and installed. We're working with Sean Libby and Mass Save to get the right ones and get them at a good deal. I didn't highlight this enough at the top where I said what was completed though. The car barn currently lights the parking lot better than it's ever been lit before. The floodlights are fantastic. That place glows all night. So
I think, because we had comments in past years about that. It'll give us a level of security somewhat in the parking area. Because Steve, before, especially with the restaurant operation, there were complaints from people legitimately that, you went out of the parking lot and it was pitch black. And so I think that's great.
yeah, it's lit up very, very nicely now, but it's according to the plan that was approved by the planning department.
Yep.
There's specifically placed solar lights around the parking
I
lot.
think that's,
Are you gonna do any video?
Yeah, we'll do video surveillance off the car barn.
excellent.
And then let's see, as I mentioned earlier, the electric bid to install the R outlets, which is the charger grid. We're working with the new town engineer on that. I've given him all the information. He's working on a number of projects, but that's one of the ones at the top of his list.
He's a new person.
Brand new.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Could I interrupt too, just as a summary comment? I'd asked the group, because I wasn't here, what kind of general reaction have people had to what's gone on? I would think it'd be very positive. Have you heard anything, or people just matter-of-factly,
No
oh,
complaints? No, it's
I don't
done.
think it's positive, Tom. I think there's no signs, there's no signage. People don't know what to do with carts.
So I've sent emails out to the members. I'm sure you've received them, just saying some of the operations have changed that where we asked the members to play in the wave in the morning to pick up their carts at the cart barn, and that can be a little confusing because we had striped on the ground cart return.
Yeah.
But a lot of the members that play in the morning are starting to do that now. You're right, there are questions about where do we return the carts, and the plan is they're going to come up from behind the building, and there's going to be a big sign right there that says cart return, return your carts here, and we're not in that operation mode yet. So this is at the bottom of this list. I'll go to the next slide, which is these are all of our signs that have arrived, and we're going to install this week. So they really tell you where the bag drop is, where you go for the restaurant. We have a map where these all go in specific places.
Excellent.
Some of these we have multiple versions of for car return. So that should really help straighten things out, because I agree that that has been a problem we've been tackling. People are returning their dirty carts into the lineup where we have clean carts, and then guests are hopping in dirty carts, and so that's been a problem lately. But these signs are in, and they'll be installed this week.
And are you going to allow parking of the carts by the hot stove?
Yes.
To the left of the hot stove as you come back up?
Yes. Yeah.
And when they return it out of there, where are they gonna go?
They'll see signs where the current, they're all gonna go back down to the cart barn, into our cart washing pad that's down there.
No, but if I park up by the hot stove,
Right.
my car, when I leave, finish with the restaurant, do I go back down and up behind?
No,
the-
just the way you'd go now, not around behind.
All right.
Are you gonna go back to the other slide?
Yeah.
Okay. Still to come.
Okay, yes, thanks. Still to come is the hardscape and landscape of the center circle, which is what we're planning on for this fall. The washdown pad, we're working with UMass. Sean actually has a little bit of progress with that. He's working with a lady to come up with the design, and they were very encouraged that what he's already doing is steps in the right direction. He's got a nice area out at the hole 17, by the 17th green and 18th tee,
great.
where he's doing washdown, and that's the plan, where the plan for the pad is.
Has he got
Oh.
it staked out, or?
He's got a pad has been poured there, and he's been working off that pad for a couple of years now. And he's already working with, he's had some plantings there that are helping to work on the water.
Yeah.
Excuse me. What's that?
There was auto, he said that Audubon garden.
Yeah, he's got milkweeds for the butterflies, and it's all marked. It's kind of nice. That's what UMass wants
I
you to
know,
do is
I know.
have plantings and have the water filtered through the proper plantings.
What was our idea behind washing down the carts? Wasn't that going to be on the wash pad too?
Yeah, so really what we are aiming for with the washdown pad is from the maintenance vehicles. They're the ones that pick up all the chemicals on the golf course primarily, and that's where all the clippings are washed off from, is the mowers and the maintenance equipment. So that's all going to go out to the easement on the whole 18T.
And what about the golf carts?
We're going to wash those down right by the parking lot.
Do we collect that or not?
Yeah, it goes in a tight tank.
Into a what?
Tight tank. It's just,
Tight
it's
tank?
just that's just what the engineer designed. It gets filtered out from there. It gets leached out.
What's the timetable for the washdown pad?
Not sure. We've got that as still to come. We're going to address that probably in the fall. Sean's getting we discussed this a lot with the town administrator, and he said to wait on this one as we prioritize. But Sean's having a hard time working with UMass and getting them to step right up and do the design that we want, but it is the program we want to have, which is all organic.
Why would they be slow with coming back to us?
Um,
They'd be on top of that. Want to work with us as fast as they could.
Yeah, no.
Do you think maybe we could, because we pay for the service, I could call Jim Skralski?
Jim retired.
Oh.
Sorry, we'll be working with somebody new. That's all right.
Well, that
I
was,
mean,
you know,
all
I need
right.
to leverage, John, you know.
Our idea for the waiting on the, this is, Sean is, as I mentioned in the last meeting, Sean's heading up all the landscaping stuff we're talking about up here, and his time is tied up, and it's all plantings and building, and UMass isn't going to come in and do it. They're going to provide the design, and Sean's crew is going to do it.
But Martha,
Is that the landscaping, fall 2019? Is that where the old cart barn is?
The old car barn and the center circle where we have the hardscape plan and landscape plan.
How come they have to wait so long to landscape that?
What we have to do is reshape that area to reshape it so that we get the proper turn radius around, so that we can route the carts and trucks around the circle and back into the parking lot. So there's a little paving involved in it, and then there's a hardscape where we're going to lead a path up through the middle. It's a very particular plan that Michael Cardosi
plus it
designed.
would, you'd be interfering with operational, just operational.
We would be, and we're planning on doing the work in-house. The work's going to be done in-house with our staff.
But
See,
Martha,
I
I was,
think if that was done, then everything else would really, people would
Yeah.
feel that, you know, something
Well,
had taken place.
yeah.
It's going to be a great, it's going to be a great look when it's done. Currently, the way that it's in our budget is our staff is going to execute every aspect of that we can, other than the hardscapes. And the staff is, you know, we're in the summer season now where they're caring for the golf course. So Sean, and whatever resources he has, is working on the building and finishing the building, because as I mentioned, the plan was do the building first, take care of the cart barn building, and take care of the traffic that's going to go around behind it, and then move on to these other areas.
And I was gonna say, Martha, the silver lining should be this accomplishing the wash down pad, et cetera. that would be a green light, in my estimation, for our Audubon completion for certification, which is now extended into
Yeah.
a number of
5,
years.
7 years.
The one thing,
It's
is-
been my
Yeah.
tenure.
what I mentioned though, and I know I don't want to be the voice for pushing this off, it's really a conflicting goal to have. We want to be certified, which is what we want to be, but we're going to blow up all these trees and have all these construction projects. They don't want that. The Audubon wants trees to fall in the woods and have them stay down to become habitats for animals. And so, I know we want the Audubon certification, but while we're
Oh, I know.
while
but I
we're
mean,
knocking
this-
down trees and
this
doing
is a
construction
step-
projects.
This is a step forward that I think should lead to that.
I think so too. I think it's the proper time and place for it though.
Yeah.
Because when Audubon comes in and we're working with our town conservation, trying to pave the path that goes through the conservation area,
Oh,
that's
I know.
not
I'm not-
Audubon friendly.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the end game.
Okay, I'll skip by the sign slide. You do that. I got some highlights here.
Could you, the reskinning, yeah, could you
Oh,
go
yeah.
back to that?
Yeah, sure. That's as I mentioned at the last meeting, we're kind of waiting to see if that falls in the budget. The town administrator wants us to get quotes on that, but we talked to J.J. Cardosi when he built the building. The quote came in way too high for a plan that really didn't do the job right, which is just like we had this car barn built with the knee wall, the 2-foot high knee wall all the way around it. That's what we need in the new building. J.J. Cardosi gave us a bid of $125,000, which we kind of had to beat him down to that number to just skin the building with no knee wall. And so we still have water problems in the building. So the town administrator said, let's hold and see how the budget on the rest of the stuff holds up. We'll get quotes on the reskinning and tackle that next.
And specifically, he's talking about because this is how it was done, and I realize there were budget constraints, but they cobbled together that back building, I'll call it the back building, not Sean's primary building, but everybody's on the same page. That, we're talking about as far as this reskin is concerned. And boy, without that knee wall, forget it.
It's at the bottom of the hill, it's at a low point, and all the water rolls right through it. And so the problem is, right now, the skin of the building touches the ground and it's rotting out there. And so in Sean's estimation, this is not a high priority item. It is what it is. And the right thing to do to care for the building is to reskin it. It's this year, next year is not going to necessarily matter. Sean wants to do it right, and I agree with that. In the 40 years the building's been there, because that's the original maintenance building, it's had so many bump outs built off of it that are storage containment units and things that the job becomes a little bigger. And even when J.J. Cardosi looked at it, he said that's a bigger job than you planned out. When we got the quotes, when we first planned this project, we got the quotes through our town engineer at the time. He just said, oh, this is the same as reskinning the building at the dump, and it'll be $100,000. And it turns out that quote wasn't really accurate.
Okay.
Question.
Roman, do you know where, there was 1.2 million in funding for this project. Do you know where we are right now as far as expenditures?
Yeah, if you want at the next meeting, I can give a breakdown of it, because I share that every time I meet with the town administrator. He's got me keeping a running tally.
Good.
I think we're in the 400,000, just under 400,000 left, because the bill to J.J. Cardosi was for about 650,000, and then we've paid for about the repaving's about 100,000.
And the items that you have on that list to do are doable with $400,000?
Yeah, so I mean, I think what we're looking at is with the reskinning, that's kind of why that's on hold, is let's get the building done and let's get done what we started and see, when we get quotes, what the reskinning's all about. But, yes. Also, I'll share that spreadsheet with
Yeah.
Takuni next meeting.
Okay.
I'm glad Jack brought that. That's what I was going to ask. It seems like you've done such a good job in creating revenue and being competitive so that we were able to support a substantial amount of money when we built the cat place. And
Right.
now we have this other situation where the reskinning is very, very expensive, but we may be able to each year develop our own little account that just separates a certain amount of money that's
Right.
excess into that account, so that 3 to 4 years from now, we may have enough. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but it would seem to me that we might have the option of doing that.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm hoping that it's doable with the money that's been appropriated for this project. And the town administrator is his plan. He said, we're going to get done what we said we're going to get done. So he's trying every which way to make the numbers work. And it looks doable now, but it all depends on what the quotes come back at for doing it. And so that's why we're going to do it last. The plan is to do it last. There's no real imperative time to rush that project. But I think our infrastructure fund that we currently have would be exactly right for this if we ever needed it to be.
Yeah.
Advance the signs. So here's just some examples of some of the landscaping. This is all according to the Michael Curdosi landscaping plan. Since I took that picture, we put an irrigation in that bed as well.
That looks great.
Yeah, no, it's
I
good. I think so too.
Yeah.
I highlighted this just to show the floodlights. Let me see if my mouse comes on. Oh, my mouse isn't working. You can see the floodlights too on this side. So really, these floodlights really light up the parking lot nicely, and it provides our staff when we start having late nights with a nice little light lit area to work.
And imagine the door system, I bet is
Fantastic.
fantastic.
Top notch, yeah.
You think we could get, like Titleist to Fiction to pay $100,000 to put up a big sign that says,
Name the bond.
Yeah.
Name the bond.
And this is hard to look at, but this was a big slide for us. We finally got the lights in the barn, as I said at the last meeting, by May 10th. So you can see the lights hanging from the ceiling with the outlets, the fan in the back, all operational. So we don't have the cart charging grid, but we have outlets, lights, electric doors, and electric fans.
Fantastic. How about progress in the bump out down at the end?
Mhm. Well, that's
Not a priority, I
the
realize,
primary
but-
usage for that is going to be the electrical first.
Yeah.
So we're not putting anything permanent in there until the electrical needs are met.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, that's what I had for the project.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Roman.
You're welcome.
Very, very detailed. Okay, moving on, under new business, elections coming up in June. As I've done in the past, I'll ask one of the committeemen, or I can select someone to solicit. There'll be two positions, vice chair and chairman, as required by our charge as far as the committee's concerned. So if there is any interest in those positions, let it be known too. And Steve, I'm looking at you, if you'd like to coordinate that for me. And that way we can expedite the process. You'll bring a slate, recommended, et cetera. And if there are multiple options, it'll just expedite the vote. So, okay? Thank you. And I also asked Roman, it's probably overkill, but just to put focus on the fact that our prime season is coming up, June and July. And I didn't want to go too forward into August, but I thought that would be appropriate. If you could give us an overview of
Sure.
major events.
Yep.
And then our last item would be long-range planning. So, well,
Okay. So for schedule of events in June and July, for member events, we've got the Women's Golf Association member on June 18th, the Women's 9-hole Invitational on the 25th, and then for outings, we've got the Cape Cod Women's Golf League on the 27th of June, and the New England PGA playability test on July 25th. I separated out the junior events because we're doing so much for player development.
Yeah.
We really have a lot to highlight in the junior golf scene. With
fantastic.
PGA Junior League runs the month of July, Drive, Chip, and Putt on June 27th, the Cape Cod Junior Golf Association on July 16th, the New England PGA Junior Tour on June 17th, and then for special events or special opportunities, we have the Mass Golf Junior Girls Championship on August 5th and 6th, the PGA Junior League Northeast Regionals, these are all real special events, September 14th and 15th. The PGA Family Cup, because of everything we're doing, we ended up getting some really unique opportunities. So the PGA of America asked us, as one of the very few courses in the country, to pilot a program that they're going to release nationally next year. Just because then when they said, you guys do so much and you guys do it so well with player development, we want you guys to test it. So that's going to be something you'll see a lot of promotion for next year, the PGA Family Cup.
What is it?
That's a
What it
kudos.
is it's basically our PGA Junior League where the kids wear team jerseys
Oh, yeah.
and take on each other, and each team, instead of being a bunch of kids, it's a family. So it'd be the idea is kids, parents, and grandkids all forming a team, 2 play at a time in a Chapman format. So it's basically an alternate shot format. And they have 2 hats that go for each team, and so whoever's wearing the hat, they're in play, and everybody else is caddies. And so you kind of have a family going around the golf course and posting a score at the end of 9 holes. And
That's
so it's going to be a 9-hole event at twilight one day.
Wow.
We're going to try to get a bunch of families out, and the idea is to have 3 or 4 generations of family out there playing as a team.
Fantastic.
We could do barbecue
Fantastic.
this Thursday too.
What's that?
We could do outdoor barbecues.
We'll see. I'm sure Ron could act on that if we have the participation, but we'll promote it pretty hard. What I'm hoping to do is the month of July, we have the PGA Junior League. I'm hoping that'll be the core of our families and want to try out the next event. So I'll promote that hard with our PGA Junior League families. And then really exciting also is the First Tee program that I've been meeting with the executive director for Mass Golf on that program. We're hoping to roll that out, to have a soft rollout in this fall. And that's what his plan is to roll that out it's a joint venture with Monomoy Middle School, sorry, so that it's only open to the middle school students. And then as we go into next year, it's just open. So we want to engage the middle school and their students, and then next year it's just going to be open enrollment. They sign up through the MGA website, Mass Golf website.
Fantastic.
But we're still nailing that down with the school superintendent. We had a meeting with him last Thursday, and he had something come up and was unable to make the meeting.
That's fantastic.
What's the impact on the golf course during these events?
So PGA Junior League is twilight only. It's 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. is when it starts. We've done that. This will be our 4th year doing that, so that's been established. Drive chip putt is strictly the driving range, and that's on the day of the Cape Cod Women's Golf League, and they supported that very well last year. We told them in advance we'd be having it. They love supporting it, so it's a shotgun, don't use the range that day, and to support our drive chip putt event. The Cape Cod Junior Golf Association utilizes a small block of afternoon tee times. Same with any PGA Junior Tour. Mass Golf Junior Girls Championship is more significant. That's a Monday and Tuesday in August, and they take up basically all of the morning tee times one day. Sorry, for 2 days. The PGA Junior League Northeast Regionals, that's not 3 9-hole waves over the course of a weekend. It's just blocks of tee times they're taking up. We've run this event. This will be our 3rd time running that event. And the PGA Family Cup, I've got it scheduled for one day at 3 p.m. So it'll be 9 holes at 3 p.m. So it's low impact.
Low impact.
And then the First Tee has no.
Sounds like big impact.
It'll be impact on the Twilight golfers. I mean, we do all the junior stuff at Twilight, afternoon and Twilight.
You mentioned Monday and Tuesday for the Junior Girls Championship, that's a daily, that's not.
I'm sorry, that's the one exception. That's a
Yeah.
state championship, so that's going to be the morning tee times. The Ladies Association has been notified. They're going to play on the Thursday that week.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what's awesome with when the Ladies Association was told that, that's what I love is the first thing they said is great. Once we told them they could move to Thursday, they said great. We want to be there Tuesday also and volunteer. So I already reached out to the executive director of the Mass Golf to say we've got all the volunteers you want. Our Ladies Association wants to support the event. And then the First Tee program, that's after school in the fall. They'll have access to the golf courses to the sunsets.
But this is exceptional. It colors in and focuses on our goals as a committee as well to promote junior golf. And I would imagine as far as impact on the golf course, Jack, there's a logical question here. I'm sure Sean is aware of this calendar as far as maintenance procedures are concerned and, you know, the traditional kinds of things so that we present the golf course in an optimum way.
We have we have the Junior Girls Championship scheduled 1 week away from our club championship, which is always the time we ramp it up. So the golf course is going to be really ramped up for play that first 2 weeks of August.
Excellent.
And so yeah, we'll have it in championship form, and the rest of the events are just standard conditions. And then I'll show you a slide here. As you mentioned, Clem, I had a member of the PGA's golf course consulting staff reach out to me on an issue, and once again they reached out because we do so much player development. They were saying, you know, this is the health of a golf club is the player development issues. And I know when I first came on board, there was a lot of concern of an aging membership. This is how you tackle an aging membership. Is we've got when you saw the membership numbers, the young adult category continues to go up, and the junior golf is involving families. So we're involving more of the segments of the population. And the First Tee will really do
The
that.
slide right there really sets itself up great publication article in
Yes.
terms
Yeah.
of what Cranberry Valley is doing for junior.
I agree. I've got a slide here, John, with,
And it separates us from the competition, I think, in a dramatic way.
one last thing we're doing, and this is kind of tied in with the First Tee program, is something called Youth on Course that Mass Golf's heading up for us in Massachusetts. And what it does is offers kids $5 greens fees, and they subsidize the remaining amount. So at Twilight currently, we have an approved rate of $20 for kids to play. Because we're going to be involved in the First Tee, that immediately involves us in this Youth on Course program, where kids that go through the First Tee program and get a membership card in Youth on Course will be able to play Cranberry Valley for $5. And then when we sign them in, this charity organization sends us the remaining 15, subsidizes the rest of their greens fee. So we lose nothing, and the kids play for $5. It's
You know,
a fantastic program.
This should be an article in the Cape Cod Chronicle at times. I'm sure you have contacts there.
I agree. I'd let it happen. I mean, I think maybe it's a season recap, say this is everything that happened, because I'd hate to hype it up before it happens with the First Tee program and all.
Yeah.
But I do.
Extraordinary.
It's a good point.
I thought this was kind of cool. If you watch any of the PGA championships, these are all the national programs we're involved in, or regional programs we're involved in. If you watch the Masters, you saw a ton of the drive, chip, and putt logo. PGA Junior League is the PGA Championship. Every 15 minutes, they had somebody on talking about PGA Junior League, the First Tee program. So these are all the nationally recognized, and then on the left is our Mass Golf and Cape Cod Junior Golf Association. But we're not just running in-house programs. These are all national initiatives we're involved in.
It just
How many
puts us in a league of our own.
How many
Jack?
kids do you have currently signed up with this?
So, I mean, we've got a lot of programs. The drive, chip, and putt, we expect to be sold out with 120 kids. PGA Junior League, we had over 50 kids last year. The First Tee, we don't know. What we're hoping to do is have the school get on board with our program and really team up with it. And they currently have the middle school team has about 30 kids. So,
I mean, obviously, one of the big challenges for kids is clubs. Do they do anything in that area?
yeah, they do. So we accept donations for kids clubs, and then there are ways to get cheaper clubs. Our members, as you know, purchase clubs with their remaining credit books every year. So we have clubs going into the kids programs. And then the First Tee program, one of the wonderful things they do is any kid whatsoever that says it's cost prohibitive for them to join is immediately free. So with no questions asked, is free.
That drive, chip, and putt is probably one of the best events going.
Awesome. It's awesome. And it's free. Sign up online for free.
Yeah.
I was gonna remark, Roman, looking at the calendar, I think you had June 27th
Yeah.
as the date. Will it be advertising and so on coordinated as far as promoting that is concerned, or?
Yeah, so not necessarily. I think that this is all done through the New England PGA.
Oh,
They do
okay.
all the advertising,
Okay.
and then if you watch during the PGA, they're doing national advertising.
Yeah.
The one thing I've done is I want to upgrade our commercials that we show on Comcast. So September is such a great month where everything's so beautiful on the golf course that I've lined up a film crew for the weekend where we have the PGA Junior League Northeast Regionals. And I'm going to have Bob Miller, he's usually busy that time. I'll have them film him giving lessons, and I'll have them do some drone footage of the golf course
Great.
and film the junior event, and we'll spin 3 commercials out of that.
Excellent,
So
excellent.
I was up there today and I met your new intern from
Yeah.
Central Michigan.
Yeah.
And it would seem to me that would be a good project for, I don't know how many interns you're going to have, but to have them do outreach to the middle school and to the high school, and just to set up connectors so that that person is responsible for making sure that the school and the people there know what's going on here all summer.
Yeah.
Because the schools themselves put out these bulletins about offerings of, the town and those things. And this integrates
It's a good idea.
the golf stuff.
I'm trying to go through the school superintendent, Scott Carpenter, first, and have connections through him, because I really
They're
want.
busy, the coaches.
I understand.
And Bill Burkhardt, who's at the high school principal, is a very creative guy. He's a UMass, he's a former football player at UMass, and he's very good at what he does.
Well, the reason we're going through the superintendent first is when I mentioned the First Tee program to the town administrator, it's, you know about the program, Tom. It's got the core principles, the core values of life. The town administrator said our school superintendent has employed a core values program at the school,
Right.
regardless of golf. So he said this goes right in hand with what they already do at the school.
Yeah,
So it's a good match.
It's a parallel track that it should be connected. But I just thought the intern, you're busy, and you know, Dick's busy, but an intern might have, that would be a good project for them to go back to college and say, this is one of the things I did.
It's a good idea.
Just a thought.
Good idea.
Just a thought.
Roman, what about the recreation department?
Yeah, so when we get all this stuff, we always forward what we're doing to the recreation department. They don't promote it as their own, but what I do is I set up a table down at the community center that has all of our posters on it, and that tells them how to sign up. So we have a presence down there. Okay, that's what I had for you on summer events.
Okay. Perfect, well, thank you.
Good.
Uh,
Very good.
Now, last item, agenda-wise, our long-range planning. I think in my note to everybody, I referenced the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, 2025 is sort of around the corner, remarkably. So I asked Roman to simply review everything that's been approved at town meeting. For those that may have heard or were there even, we now have an authentic program that's in place as far as capital outlay is concerned. And of course, that can be adjusted too, but I thought, you know, as we go forward, strategic planning comes into play here, and that it's really incumbent upon us to, you know, project forward so that we have a plan in place. Okay? Go ahead, Ron.
Can I just say something? I wasn't there, so I don't know, but one of the things that was mentioned to me is that someone at the town meeting stepped up and asked the question, you know, they rejected the $4.5 million improvement to Lower County Road.
Yeah, yeah.
They only passed the budget by 34 votes.
I heard.
But someone raised, sort of in conjunction with this, they say cost conservatism, what does the golf course cost us?
Yeah.
And the impression I was given is that no one from the town was able to say very much about that.
The town administrator did take that one, and you know, we have direction from him that don't. He kind of says don't let things go to the floor. If he can handle it, he handles it. And he said he referenced the USGA report and how we follow our USGA guidelines and things. But when our programs all got approved as far as the bunkers and the trees.
I understand, but I
I think it's a good.
it sort of raises a specter, is there going to be more scrutiny or more focus on what's this costing? And
Sure.
Is this really self-sustaining? I mean, all of this money is basically being funded by the Golf Improvement Fund or the
Right.
Infrastructure Fund and so on and so forth. But, you know, without awareness of those type, you know, I mean, they always get approved by voice vote, but I just think these are, you know, significant funds, and they may get bigger if you do some of the plans that we have for Part 3 or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Junior course.
I wasn't at the meeting, but I
I
heard
wasn't.
it on TV.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, because I think this guy asked the question by saying, well, what's it cost us? He
Right.
wanted a number like,
Right.
it cost us 1.5 million to run this golf course. And nobody really got up and answered the question in terms of, well, yeah, it costs us 1.5 or whatever
But-
it is. But we bring in X amount of dollars in revenue.
Exactly.
So nobody answered the question properly.
Right.
I think
And
but
that goes back to my other point that I've been hopping on for 5 years, with all these improvement funds that we have, which I think are great, because we self-sustain ourselves with all these projects. But we really need an accounting of what we're spending on an annual basis, and what we're spending for. Because one of the guys at this meeting got up and said, well, what about the bunkers? Why do we need bunkers, and what does it cost for bunkers? We want to get bids for bunkers, and
Same old, same old.
it was one of these guys that had come to one of our meetings before, I think. It was very
Interesting.
complimentary of the golf course.
Yeah. Yeah,
But he got up there and started talking about bunkers,
right.
like, you know, we're spending way too much money for bunkers, when he had probably no concept of what
Exactly.
we're doing here.
It's, and a good analogy, John, would be, it was a town meeting several years ago. Questions about bulkheads down at the harbors. People had no idea what they were talking about. But you know what I mean? It was a trigger. And
But the rates have become so high, I just think there's a lot of focus now on, you know, they wouldn't approve 4.5 million for a road improvement. You know, are they gonna block at some of these if they, even though they are fully
self-funded.
self-funded?
I agree, that's the climate, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mentioned this to Clem, and Sean and I have talked about that too. One place that they could, you know, look at our money and say that we should spend this money on more of our budgeted items. So we currently have a capital budget item of $73,000 a year that goes into T work and tree work and equipment, that they could easily say, that's down to zero, spend your fund money on it, on T work, tree work.
I'll tell you what, when that question came up, I was in the audience, and I was very uncomfortable when Chris got up and said, well, I'll try to answer that question. His words, not mine. And so I'm looking around, as well. And I don't know what's going on there in terms of that dynamic, but when he threw those words out, I'm sitting there thinking, you're talking smoke and mirrors here? What's going on?
There is an impression, I think, that we should get out that, and I've had a few people mention to me that, this John mentioned, maybe the public doesn't know how much we're self-sustained.
I don't-
Well, I
It's
think,
not-
I think the other thing that public's not aware of, and I think we are in here, but I mean, we're returning to the town anywhere from $350,000 to $400,000 a year.
Exactly.
Right to the, right to free
Exactly.
cash. So I mean, we're doing a hell of a job. We're running a business,
Right.
Yeah.
and we're running it for a profit.
Now, that goes, they eat that up as indirect costs, though, because that goes into employee benefits
But
and,
it's all bogus, though. We're giving the town $350,000 for them to fund certain things within the town that they have to do. So I mean, it's a very profitable business.
Well, you know, if I could say something, you know, we've been doing this now like 12 years. We used to get every year the budget,
Yeah,
with
right.
expenses, you know, for years and years. And we would look at the indirect costs, and we would challenge the indirect costs and those things. And then, when we first took over, it was $130,000 the first year in lieu of,
Taxes.
no, that was it was a transfer fee, taken right from the budget for the town. Then for the next 5 years, $80,000 was taken out in lieu of taxes. And we raised the point, what are you talking about? You own the place, you own all the employees, and you're doing this. And then we brought up the issue of the Emerson College case, because under that a town or city cannot charge more for a particular service than it costs to provide the service. Now, I was interviewed recently on television about the golf committee, because McCaskill was there, he asked me, and somebody else, and they had all these committees, and so there's a take on this. And while I was there, McCaskill, the selectman, turned to me and said, you're one of the few agencies in town that pays for itself. And I said, yes, I know that. Now, when, you know, Pete Watson used to come, the late Pete Watson used to come, and he was very, very elegant in what he was showing, because it showed the amount of money that real estate people here were being charged because they were paying off the original debt, which, by the way, is paid off in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, the point is a good one, that if, it may be that we'd like to, so that we can answer the question, if nobody else can, we'd like to know exactly, if we are putting extra money into the town, it may be a violation of law. I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you, the Emerson College case is pretty clear. Where would it be going?
Tom,
It wouldn't be a
there,
violation of the law, because they hide it through indirect costs.
right.
Well,
But I
if they do
mean,
that, we
but
need
the
to
thing
know that.
is, but
We
the
need
thing
to know
is,
that.
anybody in town would ask you the question, oh, Cranberry Valley, how you guys doing over there?
Yeah.
You must contribute quite a bit to the town. And the answer is, yes, we do.
But under the law, you can't. No, I understand. No, I understand.
Forget the law.
No, well, I understand. I
At the end of the
understand.
day,
I had that-
everything is a profit and loss statement.
Well, it's a trick, yeah, but I'm restricted structures about the law, and I can tell you, I've worked in municipalities and school districts for years and years and years. And if they can simply make it, if they can simply say, well, okay, you contribute about 80,000 to us, so we're gonna put 30 into that, just to cover the, you know, we're not an indirect cost for legal fees.
Right.
But we said, we don't use a lawyer. Well, I don't know the town, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, I'd like to have someone explain it to us, why we can't take that extra money and put it right back into the golf course.
Well,
Well, that's the-
I understand why we can't do that.
Well, you may, but I don't, because
Yeah, you
I'm
do.
being respectful. No, I understand. So we go through this, and you've done it very well, by the way, is we're self-sufficient now. All of the
Yeah.
stuff is well, this did not come from anyone else other than people who play golf here, right? So therefore, the excess should be returned to ensure that the place is competitive and up, like the building, the ribbing on the building, that would be a no-brainer if we got an extra year on.
One thing I did get though, Tom, when I first started here, well, I think it was my first week on the job, I was given a independent audit that was done of the golf operations indirect costs, and it said you don't make a cent because you've got tech services, you got
Vacuum
post-employment
Right.
employee benefits, and that's all real stuff though. The post-employment benefits are real stuff. Any kind of workman's comp claims you have, real stuff.
Yeah, but
The town pays all that.
That's why we had the discussion going way back.
Yeah.
We've had it for many years.
And I wrote a
But that
policy.
$300,000,
Yeah.
Tom, is going to pay for programs within the town, pension programs or whatever the case may
Right,
be.
I'd like to just-
That's why we came up with the concept of all these extra funds that we would develop on ourselves, by ourselves,
Right.
Right.
to fund projects on the golf
But
course.
the Supreme Judicial Court has said that any municipality that does this, the excess is a tax. It has to be treated as a tax, that's all.
But they'll show you there's no excess though, there's no
How do you
excess.
justify it?
Well, regardless, we're not the only operation that is a revenue center. You've got harbors and waterways as well, and,
But we're self-sufficient.
I would much
Well-
rather have a program like we have,
Yeah.
Yes.
rather than what Yarmouth is going through right now with that enterprise fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that enterprise fund is a disaster.
it's gonna be a disaster.
I agree.
And when you start turning over the golf operation to a golf management
No.
company, that's the kiss of death.
No,
And-
I agree.
And back to your point, John and Jack, collectively, that is disconcerting, to think that, you know, there wasn't a simple, straightforward answer to that question. And I guess my question to you guys would be, or to the committee at large, would be, do you think there's anything that we should do, or could do? Or,
Yeah, I think, well, I
I mean-
could put it
Yeah,
in
I
a
mean,
What?
one of the,
See.
one of the basic questions I've had since joining, and I know the midnight here and stuff, where's the accountability and the communications back and forth between the selectmen and the town administrator and this committee? I mean, to be perfectly frank, when I first came in and I started hearing about this contract, this bid with the solar company,
yeah,
and oops, they made a mistake, that they only put in 100,000 for the interconnect because they assumed it was gonna be up above ground on poles, and now it's potentially gonna be 300,000 or 350,000 to put it underground because that's a requirement for all new buildings. Too bad for them. Somebody screwed up. The town administrator or the person who accepted the bid that didn't look at the bid to see whether or not it was specified if it was gonna be above ground or below ground. And if they did, then the bidder screwed up. And to be frank, when I was in business, I would have said to that bidder, I don't care that you made a mistake. That extra 200,000 is coming out of your pocket. Not my concern. You won the bid based on what you submitted for us. And if you made a mistake that reduced, that lowered your bid, which helped you win the award for the bid, that's your error. But instead, we come up with ideas, we give it to the people that put it out to bid by the town hall, the town administrator, all these other people are, they're making decisions for us that directly affect what our costs are and what we can do and what we can spend going forward. And yet we have virtually no involvement other than to come up with the ideas and then leave it up to them as to whether or not they're going to do a good job, bad job, or whether or not we could be of any help. I mean, I understand they're real busy and stuff, fine. I would love to spend a few hours reviewing bids that have a direct effect on Cranberry Valley Golf Course. And take notes and supply them to whoever's reviewing it. I know I'm not an elected official that has the authority to do it.
That's the key phrase.
But, so,
Yeah.
again, if all we are then is the idea people, and we just give the ideas to them, and they're wholly accountable and solely responsible for all the decisions and the ideas, I mean, and the decisions and the reviews of the details, then that's fine, if that's what the charter is. But they own the responsibility to be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
How we're doing it and where the money's going. It just seems as though we could be of more value to Cranberry Valley Golf Course and the town of Howard if they'd let us get more directly involved and we had these open lines of communication between. I mean, why couldn't the town administrator come to a meeting period?
One at a time. John? Or Jack? Sorry.
Roman, you mentioned when you started, you were given an audit that said basically we make zero. And if I look at a simplistic view, this course brings in revenue and it has some expenses. And there's differences, and that's the $300,000 or $400,000 I think that John's been talking about that we give back to the town.
Mhm.
But also associated with those expenses is this whole thing of indirect costs.
Yeah.
Medical costs, pensions, so on and so forth. Do we know, I mean, when I worked, which is fortunately I haven't done for a while, but they used to be, they would account for that based on the unit I was in. And so whether it was by head count or by something, there was some indirect cost added to your budget, and you had to address or deal with those indirect costs. Are we not able to find that stuff? I mean, it'd be nice to say we make $1 million and we spend $1 million, or our expenses are $1 million, and including all the indirect costs.
I don't see an accounting of that because those the pension funds and the medical and the employee the different issues which include, God, there was a huge list, the legal fees, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
town tech to support, all that
Yeah.
stuff. That's all considered in insurance, it's all considered the indirect cost. I bet you when it comes down to it, some years we win, some years we lose. I bet you it's that close. And yes, you mentioned in Yarmouth where they're in trouble, they didn't account for their retirement, and that was a missing line item in their budget for a number of years, and it turns out they're $200,000 in the red.
How could you
To that
not?
point though, Tom's right. I mean, going back about 5 years ago, we used to get a report
Right.
Yeah.
that listed all our contributions to all these things that we've been talking about as far as indirect costs, but.
See, that's an easy response for me in the sense that we generate 1.4. I'm sorry, we generate 1.8, what costs us 1.4, but the $400,000 differences, you call them indirect, I call them common costs.
Yeah.
To run this town, that are distributed out, and that's our share. So therefore, we end up generating, last year, okay, zero additional over and over costs.
Is that based on the number of employees that we have for Cranberry Valley Golf Course?
Well, see, that's the
I don't
attribution,
know
that's
that. I
not,
don't
Jack
know.
pointed out, there's usually an allocation,
Yeah.
depending on what you do.
Right.
And it's tailored to what you're doing. And we've never, ever gotten that. It's like, that's a large figure, and don't worry about it, because it's not this thing. And by the way, I want to point out that the charter changed, you know. And Steve, in the old days, about 2 years ago, it read that the golf committee will be appointed by the selectmen, and such and such. The committee shall have full power responsibility to supervise the maintenance and operation of the golf course, period. It's changed now, that's all expunged. It says the committee shall recommend governing policies related to maintenance operation for consideration of the Board of Selectmen. Our authority, when we were under this job, we used to get the stuff, and we'd ask the questions, and we'd get follow-through. But it's gone, that's gone. So in the charter, if we ask for it, they could, this point could say it's none of your business, because the charter has changed, and the nature of your work has changed. The thing that irritates me is no one's come to us and said, by the way, this has changed. How do you feel about it?
I don't feel the same way about it, because I think right now, we're in a position that we have Roman, who has a much more active role in how Cranberry Valley runs prior to what we had before.
Absolutely, I don't
And
disagree
he
with
has a
that.
direct line to the town administrator. So I think that any conversations that we have in the room that we're discussing with Roman, we feel that at least our ideas are getting through
Right.
to the decision makers.
But our client, now, the golfers are asking, well, wait a minute, now, nobody could answer about the golf. How much do you, at least.
And I understand about this, these indirect costs and maybe not being able to get them itemized. But any decent finance person that's doing a budget knows the difference between salary costs and fully loaded costs of an employee. You have a general percentage that, okay, every person I hire, it's their salary plus 22%.
Right.
Or whatever the pension and overhead.
Magic number.
So we could do the math if we simply took the number of employees we have in Cranberry Valley and it took that percentage and see how close to that 300,000 or 400,000 we are. It doesn't have to be exact, but.
I think
it
as
could be
John
close.
mentioned, I worked in a enterprise fund in Barnstable when I worked there before this job, and we'd get a lot, very similar accounting done there, even though it was an enterprise fund. But my experience there running that budget was, if you ask the questions, it may turn out we're losing money. And I went to that symposium in the Hyannis where they had all the municipal golf courses, and J.J. Keegan, who's a national expert on municipal golf, said you're all losing. He said I've talked to different people that say you're winning. Your towns aren't figuring depreciation. Your towns aren't figuring this, that.
Right.
And he said you're all losing. You're all losing big time.
Right.
If you're not charging $2,500 for a membership, you're losing. And so it's one of those things. If you rattle the cage and ask all the questions, it may turn out you're losing.
Right.
It's a,
Can I respond to Steve's comment, because I think it was
Yeah.
right on, but there's an exception, there are exceptions to this rule. For example, when it comes to the new carts, okay, two of us on this committee are actively engaged in working with Roman to work on the specs, to do initial looks at the three major vendors, give feedback on that, so we are actively engaged in terms of looking at the specs that will go into form and bid. And we had a meeting with the previous assistant town administrator to talk about the specifics of what was going into that bid. So we are, in some cases, we're actively engaged in the process.
And-
But it's not universal.
And I think though, sorry, Clem, but I think, John, when we talk about this is what I specifically think that the committee could be very important in, is when we get up in front of the selectmen, the finance committee, having the committee there
Yes.
to say, yes, we agree with this, because as a town employee, they can tell me, this year they told me, cut your budget by $30,000. As an employee, I do it.
No.
It's the committee, you could say, hey,
Exactly.
here's our opinion.
And-
We're advisory, here's our opinion.
and not to cut off the discussion, but I don't want to get sidetracked. I want to make sure that we complete this analysis. To FY '24, the one thing that I don't see there is the junior course initiative. Roman.
Design the three-hole practice
Where?
and putting
Oh,
course,
sorry.
FY
Okay,
23.
number 23.
That's the design for it.
Okay.
Mark Mungem
Right.
said it'd be around 31.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is the kind of stuff that when they want advisors, this is the stuff that I think would be very powerful if the golf committee stood up at the capital outlay committee meetings and in front of the selectmen when it's budget time and represented how important this is and how important golfer development programs are and some of the projects we're doing on the golf course, because we're getting close to the Mark Mungem Tee project. That's really player development stuff where we're going to try to make the course easier for different segments of the golf course, different segments of the golf population. And it may be a hard sell on the selectmen without the committee there to, you act as a representative of the committee, of the selectmen, I'm sorry.
Well, with the exception of about 3 of those items up there, all those dollars are basically based on the golf committee.
Yeah.
What we deal with funding.
Right.
Exactly.
Recommended fees. Yeah,
Well, I
annually.
mean, you also come up with the golf improvement budget, the
That's what I
infrastructure
mean.
budget.
Yeah, no question. And by the way, when the warrant came out, I saw on the first page, golf improvement, $130,000. They wanted to put that in the general fund. And I called 2 selectmen, spoke to them personally, I said, what's this about? What I got was, the answer was, no, that's money that you've got, but the town meeting doesn't approve it, which is fine, that was the origin of it. But it made me very suspicious, but it looks like, they did the right thing,
Yeah.
so,
The new finance director had to do a little maintenance of the funds, but the money's all there.
yeah.
It's just
Town
a
meeting.
accounting
I
procedure.
understand, that's fine.
Jack?
Roman, have you looked at, and some of these are fairly big expenditures. I don't know where we stand currently on the golf improvement fund, but if you assume, you know, let's say we get X amount of dollars now, and each year we'll bring in X amount of more dollars. Are all of these amounts sustainable with?
So, yeah, that's something I want to talk about, Jack, is really when we put these numbers on here, and this is currently approved in the town's capital plan, so this has all been submitted for the capital plan, doesn't mean we're locked into it. It was all assuming a raise in membership this year to go into the golf improvement fund, to be able to fund some of these bigger ticket items. And, you know, I really think, as we talked about the golf committee's advisory role, I'd really make sure that you guys scrutinize these projects, make sure, you know, that you're really behind these projects, and they're not just, there's something we really want to champion, because they are big ticket items, as you
Right,
mentioned.
but I think a bigger question is, do we have the money to actually pay for these things?
Yeah, so the two projects coming up with $115,000 for 2 years, and, you know, based on this last project, maybe those estimates are a little low. Those are numbers Mark Mundrum gave us. It would have to go out to bid. No, currently we don't. They would be based on a raise in membership fees this year. So when we put this in play, I don't know if you remember, Jack, or if you were on the committee at the time, it was anticipating an every other year raising $20 in membership fees to go to the golf improvement fund.
But it would be nice to know, you know, just have like a running total. Here's the total of golf improvement fund, here's how much has been
Yeah.
expended. And then you can make some judgments as to whether we think those.
Yeah, so based on, when we did the math last year, based on a $20 increase this upcoming year, in order to begin the Mark Mundrum T project and then do year 2 of it, in FY21, the money would be there. Money's projected to be there.
That's good to know. Quick question for you on range net replace.
Yep.
Is there anything in that, as we envision it, that's gonna help to make that the far end practice area more protected?
Yeah, so I guess when we engage a company and do that bid, we'd have to look at that. What exactly we want to do with that? We got a loose estimate when we put the number on here from our current range net vendor. To replace the net would be approximately that number. So when we get a little closer, we'd want to scrutinize that and say exactly what do we want to accomplish out of that, and what would it cost.
Okay.
In Roman, the fact that it has budget next to it says you're taking it out of the golf course budget?
So once again, this is out of the, and this is where I was a little concerned, if they're going to scrutinize our budget a lot, this is what I'm concerned about. We have $73,000 in our capital budget in a capital line item in our budget every year that transfers forward every year based on a promise, basically, that we won't need a major renovation. Some of the money goes into the intermunicipal agreement where we do share equipment for aeration with the other municipalities. But that's out of that $73,000 in capital in the line buds that has to get approved every year by the capital outlays.
But that's just lumped into the 26, or whatever the heck the number is, $31 million. That's not visible to the town meeting, right? Isn't it just?
Right, that's strictly in our budget. It gets scrutinized by the capital outlay committee
Right,
every
but
year.
The amount that the town meeting approves is the 20 or $30 million total town budget. It doesn't approve
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
golf course specific.
as somebody mentioned here earlier, the town's operating budget was so close to being denied. The town administrator told me we would have had to go from there line by line and each department by department and scrutinize it, which would have been a nightmare. But yeah, you're right. That's not broken down that way. But that $73,000 is scrutinized by capital outlays every year.
And finance.
And FinCom, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. Maybe we should invite the town finance person to come here and help us understand and listen to our questions about how we can be clearer about the details of revenues and things.
She went to a session with a bunch of other people. She went to basically Finance 101 for municipalities, and she says it was fabulous. It was easy to understand,
Yeah, she's fantastic.
and she did a
That's what I
tremendous
hear,
job
yeah.
about.
Well, we should ask her to come.
Where
and
was
help
that,
us,
John?
Was it in the library? It was recently.
She does a number of those, yeah. She's
Yeah.
done
And
that.
she says, I understood what she was saying. She was very logical. She answered all the questions in terms of people can
Yeah, I
understand.
heard she was very.
Took a very
impressive.
complex subject and made it very easy to
Well,
understand.
I think we should invite her and just say actually, our constituents, our golfers, ask us questions, and we ought to be able to have answers.
Yeah.
Did you say that person works for the town?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Finance director.
She's the new finance.
New finance director.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Very good.
She handles herself pretty well.
Yeah, no, she's very,
Although I
very
gotta
smart.
share with you, I was at breakfast this morning and one of the women there, and a woman came up to me and said, "You're on the golf committee?" She said, "Yes, I have a complaint." So what is that? She said, "Well, you know, when the old cat barn was here, my tires were low, they could fill up my tires." Now they've moved that down, and so that, because someone comes up with a truck and they fill the tires with once a week or something, and they go, "My tires are down." I said, "Well, that was one of our fun."
No, the answer to that is, Tom, the companies that used to make the push carts that everybody has, like Sun Mountain, they used to do tires that needed air. Now they're all solid tires, so that issue's over. Buy a new car and you'll never do it again.
I wish that was the only problem I had.
Another time you get all the good questions, guys.
Okay, John, could I ask you, since you've spearheaded that in the past, to, look at this long-range plan and simultaneously strategic plan as well, so that we can,
Well, I think the concept that you had brought up was that we developed this so-called strategic plan going back about 8 years ago.
yeah,
And obviously, a lot of the plan is the capital plans that we have for the golf course and improving the golf course. But I think maybe what we can do is take a look at developing a strategic plan, which kind of brings in the trends that are affecting the golf course business today, municipal golf courses, like you had just brought up, you went to that symposium,
Yeah.
we had the consultant there, and they're basically saying, this is what's happening from a membership point of view, and this is what's happening from a revenue point of view. So if we understood those concepts, I think we can develop policies for the future a lot more effectively before it's upon us and it's too late to do something about it.
right.
So, I mean, that's the only thing I was thinking about, and, there's a couple vehicles for doing that.
Okay, yeah. Well, looking to the future, and July and August and so
Yeah.
on, we can,
Yeah.
start the ball rolling.
Yeah,
Well,
but I mean, I think we have an impressive list of
Yeah.
projects.
Oh, yeah.
there's no question.
Yeah.
But, well, what do you, shall we invite the town finance person to come? I would think that would be appropriate. We could put our questions out, and
Yeah.
we just need help with this.
Would you be interested in looking at that for the July meeting, folks?
Let's generate a list of questions that she should be.
Yeah, that
focused on.
we're interested, people ask us, and we need to know more about.
I think the thing that's kind of scary is that everybody's afraid to talk. Not everybody, I mean the elected officials. They're afraid to talk about where the money is and, what the golf committee is returning, what Harbor Ways is doing. These are the two biggest revenue producers for the
Exactly.
town.
Exactly.
But they never really get into the specifics in terms of what the costs are or what kind of profits are. Because obviously they're covering up a lot of the indirects that way too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
And the competition, one of the big things is that we have to be competitive here.
And I think that was our whole
Exactly.
concept behind the
Yes.
strategic
Right.
plan at the time, was that we wanted to keep Cranberry Valley one of the premier golf courses in the area.
Right.
And that's the only way that we can really
Yeah.
increase revenues on a yearly basis, if we have a really good product.
Exactly.
And if you look objectively at this last town meeting, take away our self-supporting funds, take those out of the picture. Can you imagine standing up at town meeting? We've got to do a bunker renovation. What? They would crucify us.
Well, the scary
I mean,
thing
we
is
would
now
be
you get
back
a few
to-
people talking at town meetings saying, oh,
Yeah.
this is outrageous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the selectmen start saying, oh, God.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not coming close now.
The one thing I mentioned at the last
Yeah.
meeting, though, I know I had some slides on this, how our operating costs are increasing dramatically based on minimum wage increases.
Yes.
All right, so, once again, I think if you ask a lot of questions about the indirect cost, it may turn out we're losing money. I mean, it may end up at the end of the day, when they put their list of indirect costs together, we're a loss. Because when you mention 1.4 and
We shouldn't
1.8,
be afraid to.
no, you shouldn't, no.
We as the golf committee should
Maybe
not be
then-
afraid
no.
to ask and know.
Right.
And then we can adjust as we need to.
Then maybe you have to raise the rates.
But I'm,
Hey, anybody that runs a business today, if you're putting a course budget together,
Yeah.
you're gonna be increasing that budget 3.5%, 4% every year anyway.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And are we doing that?
Right.
Right.
And if you're doing that, you have to increase the fees that go along with it, right?
Absolutely.
Well, yes.
To me,
provide the service, yeah.
it's comforting that, that this is a big asset for the town. I mean, just dollar-wise, and that at least we're paying attention to how you're paying attention for the most part to how it's managed. And I mean, that's at least a comforting feeling for me as a taxpayer.
Mhm.
But if it turned out you had to raise rates to cover fees, this stuff suffers because you're not going to raise rates to cover fees. To cover the budget and to raise money for the, because you end up outpricing yourself very quickly. As you mentioned, Yarmouth just came out and their town meeting, they approved $1,100 membership, which was like a $400 jump or something.
Right.
Yeah. They looked at their finances, decided they had to go $400, and their membership dropped like crazy. They're down to 400 members.
Well, I think the thing is though, when you have to make a big jump like that all at once, it's a real,
Wake up call.
it's a wake-up call. But I mean, if you do it strategically
Incrementally.
every year,
Yeah.
Yes,
it's not as bad.
yes.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Because I think if you would ask any member at Cranberry Valley, and I'm not a member, so I don't know, but you get a lot of value at Cranberry Valley for what you pay. The answer is definitely yes, it's
Yeah.
gotta be. I mean, when you,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot of members that are playing 200 rounds a year, at $800 membership fee, that's a pretty damn good deal.
Yeah.
And you have 128 members signed up tomorrow for the men's sweeps.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We have more people signed up than we have slots.
And that being said, the one thing that you want to recognize too, our members work harder than any members in any other course on Cape getting tee times with only 18 holes. So,
Mhm.
I mean, we compare ourselves rate-wise with the golf courses like Captain's that has a lot of wide open space and a lot of walk-on opportunities. Our members jump through the Chelsea hoops to get tee times, and a lot of them are not thrilled about it. And I think you'd outprice them at some point.
But I'd like to again say what John said, remind,
Yeah.
What?
there's an equilibrium that John is talking about running a place like this. You've got costs, et cetera, and you've got competitive stuff. And I read recently in the paper, some of these golf courses are getting together, getting little deals and these things. But you know what? The product here is unique. The product here at Cranberry Valley is unique, and we've gotten people all over the country making, us one of the national, whatever the number is. So, I hope that you agree that we ought to bring the women in and write up our questions in advance and give them to her in advance and say we need to have information because we're asked these questions and we can't answer them. So,
I think it'd be good to just understand the whole
what's
concept.
that? No question about that. Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Okay,
Gotta go
and
home
we'll-
and prepare for the Red Sox.
So are you going to do that, Clem?
I will do that.
When do you want to do that?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think
Should
the
we
July,
have just like a special meeting to talk about finances?
Good.
we could,
we do that?
we could hold, yeah.
Have 2 meetings in 1 month?
If you,
Let her make the first date selection.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean.
it might be a good
She's
idea,
working
Clem, to wait
full-time.
for the
She's
fiscal year to close.
Which
So you
would
could-
be,
I'd reach out to her and say, because it takes a little while for the
That's a
fiscal
great-
year to close, but
Yeah.
if you want to talk finances with her, it'd be pretty good to wait till after July 1st, long enough for all the bills to settle, and then you can talk about the fiscal year-end numbers.
Sure.
maybe calendar-wise, I put that out there. The next meeting,
I think it'd be good to have a separate meeting for that.
That's
I
a
think
good
you're
idea,
right.
John.
yeah,
That's a good idea.
yeah,
Nothing else on the agenda.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I had scheduled the next meeting for June 18th. So,
Yeah.
We'll look-
The third.
So we could
Yeah.
start putting together our list of questions.
Right, exactly.
Follow Roma's recommendation, we wait until after July 1.
Yeah.
Just ask
Yeah.
her what's good for you after
Yeah.
July
Right.
1, we'll have a
Yeah.
separate
Right.
little meeting.
right,
We can even give her the questions in
Even earlier in the
advance,
day.
if she'd like it,
yeah,
so that she can do whatever research she needs to have, and hopefully it will be a very quick, easy meeting.
Right, but
We
we
come with the-
should televise the meeting. like we always do. We should televise the meeting to get, to get everyone to get a feel for what it is.
I would disagree.
Well, well, John's point earlier about, we're talking about people don't talk about it. Well, we talk about it, and other people talk about it. And you had someone at the town meeting asking questions, no one would answer.
But,
That's,
but to Roman's earlier point, if we find out that we're underwater, we're losing for,
We're not underwater.
you don't know that. That's why we're asking the finance woman to come.
By the selectmen.
I wouldn't want it to
Well-
let the public know that we're 400,000 in the hole every year
Well,
until we figure out what we're gonna do about it.
but you know what? If that is true and we don't know about it, that would be a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
I
would be a
think we
problem.
would know about it.
No, I think it should be open and transparent. That's my feeling. So anyway, you're in charge.
okay. Well, Steve, to your point though, I think it's important to start formulating and thinking about appropriate questions,
Yeah.
okay?
We'll send
And
it
then
to you.
we can, get that body and work together
And
and
send it to you.
share it to Roman,
Send it to
share it
Roman.
with Roman.
Okay.
Yeah, send it to me and then
Yeah.
I'll take it to Roman and
Yeah.
we'll look
And then
into,
you can consolidate some,
Yeah.
into certain kind of things. But I just want to thank you for all you do. This is very, very systematic and well thought out,
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was gonna ask a follow-up question too, and I'm glad you triggered the thought. Roman, you've been here X number, how many years?
My 5th season, 4+ years.
Okay.
Wow.
And
Time flies.
time flies when you're having fun. And, but I think this is important too.
You haven't got gray hair yet.
I got it, don't worry, you're not looking close enough.
In the,
Step a little closer.
in the review process, you are reviewed by the town administrator?
Yes.
He's your director?
Yeah.
Because I just feel strongly, and I throw it out to the committee, I think it's important for us to, support his efforts.
Oh, I agree.
If we have to do it formally, especially with regards to, based on the number of years you've been here now, what is the timetable for review as far as?
I had my annual review in March. I mean, March every year is when my anniversary is, so I was reviewed in March.
The problem with this is we should ask the town administrator if it's appropriate for us to do this, because you get into all kinds of other kinds of things
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah.
There's no question in
Yeah, I
my
was
mind
just-
that he does a very good
Yeah.
job. He brought great expertise to what was, as John pointed out, kind of a random operation for a while. But this is,
Random?
Anybody asks me, I said, how do you make decisions? Everything's on data. Everything we make decisions on is based on data
Yeah.
and statistics and numbers that we
Data-driven.
have, that are real numbers.
I characterize it as chaos theory in the past.
Yeah.
It was chaotic. That's a polite way to put it. With no public present, public comment, I think, can be waived. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Non-debatable, non-debatable.
Okay. All in favor?
John,
Aye.
I appreciate your thoughts on this stuff. Yeah.
Steve, thank you for,
what do you want me to do about the elections now?
Uh,
Just communicate via email to the list?
sure. And people can communicate back to you.
Okay.
It just,
And the two open positions of chairman and vice
Chairman
chairman?
and vice chairman.
And are there
It's a-
specific term?
it's a 1 year.
1 year?
At some point in time,
There's no big benefits to the job, are there?
a lot of high pay.
So we gotta find another sucker like us.